video. So yeah, today if you stick around, okay, never mind. We are mostly just learning Angular using with the help of AI. Okay, oh, that's why. We are learning Angular with the help of AI. So I've opened Claude here, and this is our new Angular project. I'm just making a basic to-do app. Trying to come back to Angular development to understand what's going on. So there are, let's go to Angular documentation here. There's this new system called signals. It almost behaves like, what is this? React's the Redux, but it's built within Angular. I am trying to familiarize myself with how to set it up and just learning Angular as I go along because Signals is a new system for me in Angular. I'm familiar with components, I'm familiar with templates, directives, dependency injections, routing, forms, HTTP clients, server-side rendering, but it's been it's been a while since I've touched Angular. So I'm trying to ideally understand exactly how it still works versus how I remember it. So yeah, I'm not too far into the process though. So I've set up a little what is this, array of to-dos here. So started with setting up the interface for the to-do. It has to have an ID, a title, notes, whether it's completed or not, its priority, and its due date. So to use the date, you have to inject the date pipe, stuff like that. I forgot that I needed to do that. Claude kind of reminded me, but at the same time, when you get an error in Angular, it kind of helps you fully understand what you need to do here. Ideally, I wanna see how my live looks, so I wanna go to YouTube and just check how it looks. I'm also streaming on TikTok, but videos on TikTok don't normally stay, so I just stick to YouTube because that's where you're gonna go to view the rest of the video or the starting point of the video so you can familiarize yourself. The camera is looking static on the stream. Okay. So yeah, I probably should work on the size of my camera there because it's hiding some of the code. But on the app side, don't worry about the UI. We're just figuring things out for now. But yeah, let's continue. So what I've set up so far is I've generated a to-do item component. So you have to run a command for that to happen. So the reason why you should do that is because Angular has to set up a couple of files for you in order for this new component to be recognized throughout the system. Obviously, after creating it, the app has to recognize it before it can utilize it. So bear with me, I'm still learning Angular for now. So item of to-dos, track item ID, and then we are iterating over our to-dos array. So if you notice, we are inside the app HTML file. That to-dos list is this object that we've set up here, is this array that we've set up here. So it's an array of to-do. The to-do refers to this interface here. So this interface guides the structure of our to-do item, meaning when we set it up here, we can give it its necessary items. Careful that your to-do interface is not the same name as the to-do item. I'm not sure if you need to separate the interface with the component, if you need to set up a different folder. I remember I used to set up interfaces differently. I used to set up services differently and components differently in terms of where they go. But this is a relearning process, so it's usually a good idea to just go with what you can work with at the moment. The one thing that I noticed though is that it kind of puts SVGs as they are, but that's for later. We'll fix that as we go. So I want to delete the rest of the code that we're not using. So the left side of the UI, that needs to go because we don't usually do that. We don't use this divider. So I want the list of to-dos to be the only thing we're dealing with right now. I'm gonna also delete just gonna plug in the to-dos in here, and then I'm gonna rename this class to content. And then you can see that it's messed up our to-do items there. So what I'm gonna do is to go inside the app CSS. I'm gonna try and collapse everything. Find our content class here. Just gonna leave it normal like that. Maybe just flex direction, let's say column. So this is because I want to put a gap in between of at least maybe 8 pixels. So to-dos have some space in between them there. We need to style the item buttons as well. So this is not SCSS. I would definitely prefer to use SCSS simply because it allows me to nest my CSS. Unlike if I have to target a tag inside the content class, I have to specify that in the next line. This, I don't like this because it makes the file unnecessarily long. And yeah, I don't like this, but we'll go with this for now. It's fine. We'll go with this for now. So yeah, I'm not going to focus on the styling for now. Just going to leave these clickable. Right now we can trigger a delete. We can refresh if we want to bring them back. Okay, cool. So we can delete now, right? Right now what I want to do is what is this? Let me just see here. What do we have as edit, right? So we want to edit it. So instead of edit request for ID, so we're gonna put a logic in here to edit our to-do. So I'm gonna set up a signal. Say edit item. It's gonna be an empty string. So this is, I'm gonna set the edit item to be this ID that we're gonna click edit on. So to update, if I remember well, yeah, there has to be an update here, right? Okay, let's go back to the doc. Yeah, so you set up a signal. Oh, I did not specify that it's a signal. Okay, cool. Mistakes like that. But I learned that stuff. God damn it. Okay, now there has to be an update function. Great. and we're gonna put in the ID inside. And we use this to specify a type. I mean, the ID is already a string, right? So what's going on here? Argument of type string is not assignable to a parameter of type value string. Oh. Oh. Think value or function v cost ID. Oh yeah, that's how you do an update. That makes sense. Cool, cool, cool. So you have to set the new value of okay, so now I want to visualize. I want to see if this is actually working. So I'm just gonna display the edit item here, right? It's a signal, so there has to be a function. It's inside app. Oh, that's the wrong location. I have to be in here instead, and then do that. So now when I click edit, you see there's an ID now. You can see our ID there, which is good. It's good. And then it's gonna update. So this means that yeah, we can now track which ID we are ready to edit now. So what I want this to do is that I want this item to catch this ID, right? And then respond to the ID. So I'm gonna go to the to-do item and set the edit to a string, and then let's see, can we leave it as an empty? Yes, we can leave it as empty. Doing it very shitty. Doing a very shitty approach right now. So our edit is a null. It's undefined, but it is being recognized. So what I want to do is do a little bit of logic on this side, because our edit needs to turn our label or our title here into an input. I don't want to present a new, what is this? Side drawer or a modal. I don't want to edit this item anywhere else. It's simple enough to be inline editable. So I'm gonna come in here. Where can we do that then? So it emits the edit, and then under to do item, I want this, what is this? I want this edit to be passed to our item. So it looks like I need to update the list as well to get the ID that we've currently clicked on, and then update that item's edit property to the ID that we just selected. So if you click 1, then this guy should recognize that, oh, being edited, so that when we click this one, this stops being in an edit mode and this moves on to the edit mode. That way we can catch if there's any updates that have been done here. We can catch if these are saved or not. Okay, cool. So let's just find out now how to do that. So this update, what it does, it takes the current to do and checks if the ID is the same. Wait, let's see. on toggle complete, right? Complete doesn't work, doesn't do anything. So this is the two, it concatenates everything, every information, then changes the to do to invert, it inverts the value. What is this part now? Oh, or else it returns. No, what's going on here? Okay, cool. I don't know what that is. Yeah, completed is a boolean. Okay. The edit button, right? So now let's see what it says about my approach. So I'm using Cloud because it's technically for me, it's just ideal. Especially for projects like these ones where I have to use code. ChatGPT Codex, I do trust it as well, but okay. But I mostly use it for like generic chat stuff. Before wiring it up, one framing tweak that'll save you pain. Don't let to do item reach into a global variable directly. Have app compute a plain boolean per item, edit ID, and pass that down as an input. Each to do item then only ever needs to know, am I the one being edited? It doesn't need to know the global ID exists. It doesn't need to import anything about app, and it stays reusable. This keeps the same one-way down events. Events up shape from diagram. Wait, what the free? Okay, there's an element here. There's a little graphic generated here. So I'm gonna download this as an SVG. Downloads. Oh, come on. Download as a PNG. Yeah, let's open it up and see it in full detail. So app component owns the to-do signal. To-do item component renders emits events, sends the ID. Okay, simple diagram there. Dumb child smart parent pattern. Interesting. To do item doesn't know or care how completing a do is implemented. Could be an in-memory signal. Today, a REST call to a backend next month. It only knows the user clicked this. Someone else can decide what that means. That's what makes it reusable. You could drop to-do item into a completely different app and it would still work as long as the parent wires up the tree events. The to-do versus to-do item naming call. Okay, so this is a different conflict there. So I gave my interface and the component the same name. So when I was assigning the type, the interface to the to-do item, it confused the name with the component. So it gave like a bunch of errors, which I didn't understand. But yeah, naming was the collision there. So it gave us a little bit of code here. So this is inside our to do item. At the input, a draft signal, is editing false. Okay. Okay, so this is a bad way of setting it up. I have to go inside the to do item itself, set up an input like that, the same way as we have our to do. So this is an object. Yes, that makes sense. So this to do is actually our entire object that gets parsed into this to do item, so long as it meets this interface. So you can wire up a different interface and then it should still work along with the functions that it's assigned to. There's also a cancel edit that it's set up for us. Draft title. And then an input reference. Interesting. I'm gonna see how that works in a second. I think it did not import this. Gotta import some stuff. Element ref, this might be. So let's see. Yes, element ref needs to be imported inside from Angular core. God. Fuck. There's nothing I can do about that. Wait, there is something I can do about it actually. So I can put it like that. And then drag the window a little bit inside like that. That gives us a lot more space to work with. Yeah, boy. That way y'all can not spy my cooking. Oh. You're here to code, not to watch me cook. Okay, there we go. You can see my bed cooking. Get out of here. Okay, so we have new code here. Let's understand what's going on. So is editing, we are no longer globalizing that variable. We are keeping it inside our to-do item. Cancel editing, so it becomes an input. Cancel edit becomes an output. Draft title becomes a signal. And then edit input reference view child. This is probably where we're gonna get our new value as we update the title. And then we have to update a constructor here. We do not have a constructor, do we? Okay, I'm gonna parse in this constructor. So this constructor is an effect, checks if this is editing, native element focus, Q micro tab. Ooh, I have no idea what the fuck that function does, but we're gonna learn a lot here. It expanded quick from just wanting a simple interaction here. So I remember us having constructors as well. We've got the constructor inserted now, and then we've got the draft input. On draft, who uses this function? Value, who uses this? Okay. Where do we use this? On save and on cancel, those two make sense. We did set up a save output, did we not? Or we didn't. It's like we skipped it. Is editing, cancel edit. How did I skip save? Like I totally skipped save here. Okay. And then we have those items updated, and then swap the p tag for an input tag conditionally, which is what I want. If is editing input and p tag, so we're gonna go into our item, And then let's see here, where is our item here? I'm looking for a p tag. Note title, there we go, there it is. So now this is conditional. We still have our original title p tag, but now it's conditional. It has to swap the input, which is the goal that I was aiming for. I just did not set it up properly. So let's see if Claude gave us something that works here, or if we need to look into it. So if it works, we can study what the hell's going on. Enter saves, escape cancels, clicking away, blur also saves, standard inline UX, yes. To do items, CSS, we've got some styling here for our input. So our item does have a little bit of CSS. I'm gonna close everything else, making sure we only expose what we need. Looks like I need to study some CSS. I have no idea what that clause does. App.ts, the actual editing ID global plus save cancel handles. Okay, inside our app.ts. So I'm gonna delete this edit item signal that we defined. I'm gonna delete this as well because we no longer need those. And then I think it's inside the app HTML. Delete that as well. So our app should be fine, perfect. Actually, let me clean up my files here. Close all. So we're dealing with our app item. So I'm gonna open up the app TS, app CSS, and the HTML. And then our to-do item, same thing. Item, HTML, and CSS. Perfect. And then app TS is the actual editing. Cool, cool, cool. Editing ID, we need to define that. On edit, okay. Now we defined on edit. What's the problem here now? I think we already paste this. Oh, we update the function, we already have it. Cool, cool. So it's still doing a console log. I'm just adding in another line. So we have on delete, we have on edit, toggle complete. We don't have save, so this is a whole new capability. I'm gonna put the whole thing in there and then cancel edit as well. And then now we're gonna link these into the HTML side. So we're going to expand on what we have here. So we have the edit and the delete, toggle complete, edit, delete, toggle complete, save, and edit. Let's expand inside our to-do item component here. Okay, we don't have issues. Okay, let's see what it says. Pass the composed boolean, computated boolean, wire the two new outputs. Cool. Do we have is editing in here? I don't think so. Yeah, we wired up the functions. We did not assign the boolean property here. So I'm gonna put that in there. Toggle complete is still there, passing the event. All of them are passing events except custom on edit. And then to do passes the item. One angular detail worth flagging. Effect needs to run inside an injection context, which is a components constructor. Provides automatically. This is why I put it there rather than in NgOnInit. If you ever move, oh, I forgot about the NgOnInit function. If you ever move that logic into a method, you need to wrap it with run in injection context. Try that and see if the swap to, let me know if the focus doesn't land in the input when you click edit. That's usually a timing issue between the add if render and the view child query. Cool. Okay, so it works and it does focus. So our logic works here. And then when you click outside, it has to save. So let's save updated to do, then click outside, it does update. So let's try to understand what's going on here while it works. So we have our edit. Do we even use that? Did we update that? No, we did not. I think I put this in here for us, but it's not a biggie since inside our to-dos here, I think I can, no, I can delete all of these and delete this, remove anything that's unused. Cool, cool, cool. It still works. Yep. Yep. The exact behavior, just a different way of setting it up. So when this is editing, is our switch case control. It allows us to switch between is editing, becoming an input, and a p tag. What allows that to be the case is when we did click on, oh man, I want to move this SVG. It makes so much noise in our code. When you click on edit here, this edit button triggers this on edit function. This edit takes the ID and then sets this editing to that ID. Then what that impacts, it impacts on, okay, it sets, so that triggers the switch. And then on blur, let's see. So our input has to have a trigger. So the value is tied to on draft title, of which we, what do we have? I think it's decided what to do. Yeah, it's on draft title here. Wait, no, that's not the right one. Where is it? Oh, value draft title, right? Oh, it's oh shit, I'm struggling with this. Okay, so where is draft title? On draft title is inside the to-do item, right? Then draft title, so okay, it's a signal. And then it takes its value from the input directly, and then event the target.value, extract the value on input. Okay, now it makes sense. So as we are typing, this function gets triggered. So when we press enter via the keyboard, it's gonna trigger the save, and when we blur, it's gonna trigger the save. Cool. And then when we escape, it's gonna cancel the edit. So let's see. So I'll type in and I click cancel. Okay, so it still saves. When I click escape, oops, it's not right. Let's refresh that. Cool. Complete still triggers, but I don't see anything changed though. And others don't have their due dates. Why does this other one have a date? Ah, I see. So it sets a date every time. Cool, cool. Let's pass in, oops, a due date everywhere else as well. So all of them can have the due date. Maybe we can just set just different dates for each one. 08, say 30. Cool. We're following the logic here. So when the user clicks edit on this button here, we just leave a comment, edit. Delete. Cool. When you click edit, it's gonna trigger the on edit button event. On edit event gets triggered inside our app, and how it handles that is simply sets the ID to this editing ID, which is almost similar to what I was wanting to do. I did capture the ID and set it globally, right? So how that impacts the application, so long as that is null, our to-do item is going to render a p tag. No, that's is editing. Okay, so editing ID. I just set ID, but what else does that impact? Let's check on this side. Oops. No, I did not wanna. No results. Okay, so we just set the ID here, right? Edit. So I guess we giving ourselves access to it somehow. And then yeah, we set the editing ID. Cool. And then cool. I think that's all that happens. But no, a lot more happens. Cool. So I think we still have edit request for one that's still console logging as we click on this as well, right? And then what I can do is also see how this responds as well, instead of getting it directly from no. Is this how you console log it? Yes, cool. It's always a function. Okay, now we see that we're setting the ID. Don't delete, dude. Okay, cool. So edit requests has been set. And then what happens is that our application now understands which to-do is being edited. Interesting. I see all that it does is just set edit ID to the ID. I don't see anything else. That's weird. Input. Okay. Okay, so okay, I see. One thing I'm noticing is that this onEdit function does not pass the ID. This one expects an ID as a string, but this one does not, right? So to-do is a class that has this onEdit. So it makes sense that this becomes the function that gets triggered, but at the same time, this also gets triggered, but it also logs the ID. Also logs our ID. Okay, cool. All right, but now I see. So when we click on edit, it's gonna trigger our edit function here, and then this will emit this to do.id, so it sets it as an output. Is it, does it, do we then catch it on this side, then set the edit ID inside the app? Will this run without this function? On edit does not exist on type app. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I see. Okay, inside the app, edit, which is this property. So this is the output. So this, okay. Okay, okay. So our to do is gonna emit this edit, right? It's gonna click on this, but it's gonna emit the edit ID outside to the app, to our parent here. This will be caught by our app here when it gets triggered, right? Because it was emitted, it's gonna get caught here, and then that on edit will be caught, and then that event will be passed in here as a variable. That's when we get it here as an ID, because here we're passing the ID. So this event here, the way I'm looking at it, is just a string. So this event is a string. It's gonna put it in here, and then we set edit ID inside our app here. Cool, 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 cool. So on click is gonna trigger our edit inside the item. Our edit, what the edit does, just sends the ID that's being edited. The ID gets caught by the app, and then it recognizes the edit ID, right? Then when does this editing get, when does this change then? Let's see. As an input. Is editing. When does this change? Is editing. I mean, I'm clicking on it. This editing is an if statement, right? So this has to be true for this logic to run. So where do we change this? Look at our to-do item here. Because our to-do item here also checks on is editing. And depending on its state, either we get a p tag or an input, right? But when does it change? Nothing. We only have two areas here where this property gets used. So it's been declared here as an input. False by default. Come on, when do we change this? Because when we click edit, right, we just emit the ID, then we catch it on this end and we set it. And then when we set it, the ID is editing here. Okay, I want to ask Claude this question. Because that's the difference between us reading what we are about to update and actually updating it, right? But when does it change? Because when I click edit, we just emit the ID that we are editing, and then it gets caught by the app, and then it gets saved as editing ID, right? So it changes the moment editing ID in app gets set. Okay. Okay, you click edit button, say to that triggers on edit inside to do item, which emits the ID, emits to. That event reaches the app through the edit binding. Event here is just a string, like I suspected, okay. Angular takes whatever you emit and hands it through. App on edit sets the global. Where is app on edit? App.onEdit, where it's here. App.onEdit, right? Okay. Sets the global. That's all it does. Okay, cool. Editing ID signals now too. Great. That signal writes. That signal triggers Angular to reevaluate every template expression that reads it. Every to-do item in the for loop has this binding. Let's see. That's inside app. Track item ID is editing. Oh, it's this little line of code here. Oh yeah, it's checking if the signal editing ID item is the same as the current iterated to-do ID. And then this becomes true. Wait, what? Okay. Angular reruns editing for every item in the list, not just the one you clicked. For the to-do with ID 2, that's yes, it's just true. For every other to-do is false. Is editing input? Okay, so this is an input, right? So, I see. So if this condition is true, then is editing becomes true as an input here, and then this if statement then cool. Angular reruns editing for every item in the list, not just for the one you clicked on. For the to-do with ID 2, that's for every other, it's false. Is editing input on to do updates the input boolean false, which is this guy right here, signal. It's not clear, is it? Inside that one to do item instance receives true. Your yes in the template flips, switch in the P, blah blah blah. The effect in the constructor also reruns because it reads is editing, which is well yeah, this effect listens. Your add if, yes, add if that's here. No. Wait, is editing, which is right here. In the template flips. Yes, that's where UI gets in. Okay. Because editing is in a boolean that toggles. It's a derived value recomputed fresh from a comparison every time editing ID changes. There's exactly one source of truth, editing ID, a single ID or null. And every to-do item independently asks, is that ID me? This is why clicking edit on one item automatically closes editing on any other item. Okay. Killing two birds with one stone right there. This is why clicking on one item automatically closes editing on any other item that might have been open. You never explicitly close the old one. It just naturally recomputes the false because editing ID no longer measures its own ID. If you set a breakpoint or anywhere, the most informative spot is inside on edit in app. That's where the one line, that's the one line where the actual state change happens. Everything downstream is Angular reacting to it. That makes sense. So we're doing the logic, the comparison logic here. So if the current, that's why edit just sets the ID on our editing ID property, because our input is editing here, checks, it receives the value depending on the condition here when the re-rendering runs. And then inside our to-do item, it receives that condition as an answer. And then our if statement here then checks if it's true or false. If it's true, then runs our draft title set. And then it sets that title for our input. And then our input will read it from this signal, of which I think okay, then we run a focus there. So view child element ref HTML edit input. I would imagine our edit input has a, yeah, there we go. What are these called again? I don't remember what those are called. So it is gonna read that. Yes. Okay, cool. I see. Kind of get it a little bit. So edit input ref. It's gonna get that native ref. So we're doing like a safety check here just in case we don't get it. And then we apply focus on it. And then afterwards, draft title is set to the value. On draft input, let's go check. On draft input, it's gonna be this input. So that value, when we get that value, where is it? On draft input, we set that value that the user is typing to the draft title. And then that's on save. We're gonna take that title, trim it if it's got spacing on either side, start to end. If it exists, then we save it. Okay, so that's the safety. If I were to leave this empty and click outside, it's not gonna save any empty fields, gonna bail out and just click cancel. On cancel, what happens? Cancel edit. Cancel edit. It's gonna be an output. Cancel edit, there it is. It's gonna call that cancel function. Then what it does is just sets the editing ID to null. So it does nothing. So whatever was already inside the input gets left there because our field is empty. Okay, cool. Cool. It's clicking, but very slowly. It's quite a lot happening, but it kind of makes sense. This whole thing kinda, it's the one that's watching whether we are editing now or not, right? We're editing a specific to do or not, and then everything else that's watching that property responds to the state of this one variable, depending on its value or the condition that comes back to. Oof. Angular is it's a little complicated. The whole workflow you gotta get used to, so you gotta be repeating this over and over again depending on what's happening. The only thing new here is this queue micro task. Queue micro task, so I'm not sure what that does, so let's hover on it. Just go to the MDN reference, see what that gives us. Queue micro task, where is this documentation? Is this a React doc? docs web API window. So it's a window. It's a window. Okay, it's a global function. Method of the window interface queues a microtask to be executed as save time prior to control returning the browser's event loop. Microtask is a short function which will run after the current task has completed its work, when there is no longer code waiting to be run before the control of the execution context is returned to the browser's event loop. This lets your code run without interfering with any other potentially higher priority code that is pending, but before the browser regains control over the execution context, potentially depending on the work that you need to compile. You can learn more about how to use microtasks and why you might choose to do so. Now, microtask guide. So this is not just a okay, so this will so this will run if this is true, but if it's not, then this has to run first. Okay, cool. We'll learn about that as we go. So now we've implemented our edit function. So what happens is that when we click edit, the button exposes the currently edited ID inside our application. And then since each and every one of our to-do is listening to that editing signal, it's gonna respond to the value change of that editing ID signal. And then the logic that's tied to that change is that each and every to-do must compare the currently attached ID that's attached to editing ID to itself. So we have 3 to-dos here. We have ID 1, 2, and 3. If editing ID is 1, all 3 of them will check if the edit ID currently matches itself. So if editing ID is 1, then the first to-do is going to be like, yes, editing ID currently matches me. And then that state or that condition, which is a true condition, is going to be tied to is editing property. That property is watched inside our to-do item. And then if it's false by default, it's always false because the initial state of his editing is undefined. So it's false by default. And it only changes to true when it's assigned a value. And then once it's assigned a value, we have some logic that's also tied to is editing, which is the if statement that sits inside our effect function. Effect function, which is inside the constructor, which runs every time the component itself runs. So when the if statement catches our is editing as true after this condition has returned that value for it, then it's going to execute whatever code that's inside this if function. And currently what that code is that set our draft title, which is the current to-do title, from an empty text string to the current value that we found inside our p tag. All right, so let's see how that so the title will be gone from to do. So we're not extracting it from the p tag, meaning that inside our to-dos here, we're just extracting this title, which is what we're seeing here. Then we're setting it as our draft title, which we're gonna bind to our input. So we're gonna bind this draft title to our input, and that happens we're here, right? So okay, so we have a title inside our onSave field. That save is gonna emit to that title. Okay, it's gonna update. Oh, okay, so it updates the object itself. It updates the object itself after that draft title has been exposed. So our input element here, our input takes that draft title that we have updated and takes it as a value. So when we click it, we find our title as a value in our input. And then as we update it, then that value will become title. And then we're gonna take that new value, we're gonna clean it up by doing a trim, meaning that if the user updated it and left a space at the end, it's gonna ignore that space. Next time you edit, it's not gonna find it. And then we now take that title and then we update our title object current to do with the newly updated value that the user has defined in the input field. And then now we're gonna get that new value inside the object itself. So this is gonna be the new title. When we save, it's gonna take this value and update the title in the object so it reflects in the to-do itself. So it kind of makes sense. It makes complete sense. But there's quite a lot to set up. So this entire workflow depends on your to-dos being set up. It depends on an editing ID being exposed inside our app so that each and every to-do compares itself against that to-do, so that ID. In order for the necessary interactions to occur, for the delete to happen, we need, our delete is not dependent on editing ID. It's only the edit function that's dependent on it. It's the save edit that's dependent on it as well. It's also the cancel edit that's dependent on it as well. So the edit sets the ID, save edit sets it to null, so that when the to-dos check again, where is it? This condition brings back false so that this logic doesn't run. And then we are detached from all our edit capabilities, meaning our on saves. So now our value becomes just a read only. So yeah, it's a read only now. Yeah, so I'm gonna read more about these inputs and output but it makes sense. Editing is an input from our app, right? From our HTML here. So the input, the value is being received by the to-do item and a condition state is being checked against it in order for the necessary operations to occur or the necessary rendering to occur. Damn, it's a lot. Okay. We have an additional text here on one of these to-dos. Not sure what that one is called. Oh, it's a note. It's a note. So we'll handle these. This is gonna be has to be a form, obviously. Can I set up a form that allows us to add a to-do? So the easiest way I can think about it is that we need to set up an automated ID increment. So we need to keep track of our current IDs, which is easy to do. So since our ID start at 1 instead of 0, I'm gonna read the length of these to-dos and then increment it by 1, and then we're gonna do that. So that's gonna self-organize on its own. And then the title has to be an input, the notes has to be an input, completed needs to be false by default, priority needs to be a drop down because it's a limited set of values. If we look at our property label here, it consists of an array of 2 priorities. There's a list of string. Oh, it's an object, low, medium, and high. We don't have any more. So labels needs to be a drop down. And then due date needs to be like a calendar select somehow. So this is basically the shape of our form and how it needs to look. I need to set up the UI first before we can head to that setup. In the meantime, do I have any comments on TikTok? People sending any questions in the meantime? Let's just see. Angular is a little bit of a biatch, but we're getting the hang of it. So we're gonna set up our form in here. So I'm gonna set up a div. Wait, if you use emmet, can easily say to do form, right? There we go. So it's gonna give us our div element there. Okay, nothing for now. And then this form needs to look intentional. So we need to have a couple of items that we need. Okay. So using our, what is this? Our interface as a guide. Where is that interface? Where is that interface? Cool. There we go. Our interface needs an ID it'll be logically set. When you click on add to do, there will be some logic there. We need a title, so it needs to be an input. So we need an input with a, just say, placeholder. What are we doing today? It's a self-closing tag. I'm gonna add a note, but I want the note to be a text area field. So I'm gonna leave it like that. Should I take it outside? Yeah, it's outside of content inside main, right? Okay, cool. Let's go to the CSS. Let's look at our main, how it's a flex, align item center, flex direction, it's column. Text area. So I prefer the note because it's an expandable component, but the title should be like a static one. So we have our to-do form here. Oh, actually, we need to wrap it inside the form element so we can handle all the fields at once, right? Do form container, and then this one will just be the to-do form. Cool. Then I think we need to give all of these names. So what I want to set up for now is just the layout. So I'm gonna focus on the app file a little bit for now. Just gonna put the CSS on the side here. Let me just close the side nav. We don't need to see that for now. So what I want to target is this, the main class. So the minimum height is 100. So I'm gonna set it, the height. I'm gonna set the height to 100 display viewport height. So we have scrolling, but that's simply because usually, if I remember well, we have to set everything, right? To remove the margin to have like 0 of everything. To remove the margin from everything, then it should be fine. But I'm guessing we also inject it somewhere else. Okay, these are our variables: font family, inter, backup fonts, height 100% display, ink, display block. We have a little bit of scroll here. I don't want that. I don't want that scroll to happen. We have some padding. We need padding. I don't think we need padding, do we? Where is the scroll coming from? Yeah, we do have some margin. We have a little bit of margin. Not margin, then it's some padding. Yes, on our body. What's happening on our body? Let's find that body tag. There is none. It's concatenated with this. Jesus Christ. So stubborn. Who's giving you the margin, bruh? Who? What? How is it that when I'm removing this, the margin disappears, but when I edit, it comes back? I'm missing something. I am absolutely missing something. Yes, there we go. Jeez, okay, cool. Had to inline it. I hate doing that, but I have no choice. Clearly the CSS here is not being fully appreciated, but glad we fixed that. So our main takes 100% display viewport height, and then we need to target our content. The content as well needs the same behavior, so it's already 100%. The maximum width is 700. Why? So I guess it centralizes everything. Excuse me. So I guess that's fine. So the height, I want it to be 100. So it's centering everything, right? Let's see, space around, we don't want that. We don't want the space to be around. This is the behavior I want. And then let's add margin bottom. We don't need margin. Why do they love margin so much? Padding. Okay, padding top to bottom should be, as I say, 20 pixels. Left to right is 0 pixels to give us a little bit of spacing at the top there. And then great, we've got our to-dos exactly how I want them. Do I want them at the top or the bottom though? We'll fix that. We'll deal with that later. And then we've got our content. I don't think we need to target the p tag inside this content though. Margin top, you see that? Ah, that's why they're so out of. Delete this. We don't need that, do we? No. Okay, wait. Fuck. Okay, that doesn't work. We have the p tag for the to-do item here. Oof, I'm messing up my files now. I need to close this. To-do item. Got a lot of tags. I have no idea what the fuck they're doing. What I want to target is this to-do item underscore title. The line height, it's probably the line height. Let's just comment that out and see what's going on. Nope, it's not. Letter spacing. Let's hide these so we can quickly scan. This is a new way of styling CSS. I have no idea what the fuck's going on here, but I do see it's targeting the classes quite properly. So I'm not gonna worry much about that. Margin is 0, but why do we have that space on top? Every other element in this row is sitting. To-do item, title. There is some margin on this thing. I would like that margin to be disabled. Think. If I were to think about it, it's more about the structure of the component now than it is this whole margin situation, but it is the margin still. Not sure why it's targeting it like this. Oh. Hmm. Oh, that's how you concatenate it with CSS. This is exactly what I wanted to achieve when I mentioned SCSS. Ah, okay, this is cool. This is really cool. But it's not responding though, because our variable color is ink. Let's just see what ink looks like. Let's take this back here. Ink, where are you? Ink is our app CSS, right? So it's inside host. Let's see the color of it. I think it's down here. Okay, so it's this dark color. If I change that to a purple, does our item change? Nope, doesn't change color. I don't think any of this is getting applied, to be quite honest, because we removed the margin and the margin is still there. So what I want to do is just type out the whole class and give it the same properties and see how it behaves. Then I'll correct Claude to stop this approach when it comes to doing our styling, because it doesn't work. So I'm gonna copy this. That's the problem. That's the problem. You need a CSS for the structure. I'm not sure if this works, but it clearly doesn't. Our ink. Oh, I don't think I updated the right color. Did I? No, just, yeah, there we go. Come on. So, oh shit. Cool. Now it looks proper. So all this CSS is incorrect. I need to give it this CSS and just tell it, hey, dude, you fucked it up. It ain't working, bro. It ain't working, bro. But anyway, we can do this ourselves anyway. It's just a matter of copy and paste. So even our checkbox, so it has styling, but it's not getting the styling. Let's see the whole item structure. So yeah, let's finish with the item first before we go to the layouts. Let's finish with this. I'm gonna separate the CSS file from the item. We have this button here. So the class name is to do item underscore check. I'm gonna hide this. Where is the class for it? No. Okay. There we go. This is the CSS. I'm gonna take all of this inside here, put it in here. Let's see how our checkbox should look. That's how it should look. Looks nicer. Obviously, it's AI-ish. It's AI-esque. But anyway, okay, yeah, let's continue with this, right? So we're done with the check. Save as a button. And then we need to look at the check icon. Obviously, we're gonna hide that. Oops. Q. No. Check icon. There we go. It's got a little interaction there when you click on it. It's pretty cool. The check icon probably shows up when the logic works. Currently, I don't think the completed logic actually works. So what's next? So we're done with the icon. Huh. Have a little hidden item in here. So let me just position it at the top of everything else. I need to take all of these too as well. Oh, it changes the styling depending on the severity and the priority. Right. I need to figure out how to position that properly. Why does it show though? I saw some movement there, but I don't know where this movement goes. Item actions, right? We have CSS for that. So let's just program that. This is the one thing that's tedious about Angular. I can't use like actually, can I use a design system like an end design? I want to focus on learning Angular, not HTML and CSS right now. To do item icon button. I don't want to be touching HTML and CSS. I need to be learning Angular, not HTML and CSS. I'm good with HTML and CSS. I'm very familiar with them. Icon button, there's the styling. Take that, put it in here. Great. Let's have some beautiful looking icons there. Claude is not an idiot. But yeah, let me not focus on this too much, right? So I'm fixing the CSS classes by disconnecting them with that end clause styling approach that you took and actually exposing the actual CSS. I've already done a couple of work for the check icon, that item edge and actions. I want you to persist and update the CSS file to reflect this way of styling because the initial approach that we took does not work. The UI looks very unstyled. The CSS is not working with the what is this, that whatever styling, whatever approach we're taking there. I want to automate this updates. I want to touch on that right now. So it should update this for us. I want to focus on the form layout. I want to focus on binding the data. I want to focus on all the interactions, the functions that need to be set up, how we're going to add a new to-do, updating the to-do, completing the to-do, all those crude operations before moving on to the more advanced stuff. So yes, Sass, not, come on, dude. I did not set up my Angular to use Sass at the moment. It's still using like native CSS. So just gonna copy this entire styling here. Oops, paste the whole thing and then save. Yeah, it works. So actually the complete was working. It was working. So medium, low, and high. Look at that. That looks beautiful, man. That looks proper. That's why it was showing on the edge. I see now. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That looks beautiful. Looks wonderful. But now I can't edit it. Okay. Looks great. Should add form next. Cool. So we've got our updating is working. Reading is updating. Deleting is updating. Now we're left with creating. we need an empty state as well for this. So great. Ooh, did not mean to close that. I should not have closed that. Okay, the hell? It opened short. Come on. Duh. Wait, open like many tabs here. No, no. What are you doing? No, it's opening Claude with Claude. Okay, close this one. Split window, Angular to do. Let's refresh our app and get our to dos back. Great. Okay. We need an empty state for empty to dos. An empty state is easy to add because what happens is that we will just check if our to-dos array contains anything or not. That's why I'm leaving it to Claude, because you see that that's how it works. So let's remerge these files again and then focus on the app, because our if statement is here. All we need to do is to expand by adding this at empty. So let's delete and see what's going on. Great. Then it's got some CSS as well. So looks like the CSS sits inside app. And I add it here. It's all good. Looks good. Coolsies. All right. I think I'll end here for now. I'm very hungry. We have done set up our to-dos. Or set up a to-dos, an empty state for the to-dos. Our to-dos can update, delete, and you can complete it as well. The one thing we need to set up is setting up the form so we can add more to-dos. We need to also persist our to-dos, make sure that they sit in our local storage. That's the next step, but for now I want to finish off this form, so that's what I'll do in the next video. So leave a like and comment if you enjoy the session. If you want to watch me suffer through learning Angular using Claude with AI, it's quite interesting. It really is interesting. I'm gonna sit on my spare time, just go through the code again, make sure that I burn whatever I've done for now in my brain, so that next time I don't start from scratch relearning what the fuck we did. But it's quite interesting what we have accomplished so far with AI. Mind you, I already have a little bit of experience with Angular, but there's some new ways of implementing what I'm familiar and already used to. And this is gonna be a major learning curve for me as well as you. But it's always fun to do this together. It's always fun to learn these hurdles together. Plus, we have our friend Claude here to help guide our experience here to make the learning curve a little bit less steep. But yeah,